In our previous episode, we looked at a chapter dealing with sibling rivalry and the siblings of Moses, and God intervened. Today we are going to be looking at one of the most iconic episodes of the Pentateuch, or the 5 books of Moses, and that is the recon chapter, going in to find out what is going on in the promised land and what it looks like. Numbers 13:1, and the Lord said to Moses, 13:2, send men to explore and scout out for yourselves the land of Canaan, which I give to the Israelites. From each tribe of their fathers you shall send a man, every one a leader or head among them. So I think God really wants them to see this land before they get there. He wants them to know what they're getting into and give them plenty of time to prepare themselves for where they are going. Now, this scouting mission, it may have happened later on in their journey when they were closer, but it could also happen earlier as well, right at the start of their journey, because the scouts, they can move a lot faster. They don't have to look after the women, the children, and haul all this stuff everywhere. They can travel light and they can move tremendously faster than 1,000,000 people out in the wilderness. So they could probably get there in a relatively short amount of time. Either days, weeks, or months, but significantly faster than this large group of people, and then they could report back. We see here that God wants them to have representatives of all the tribes. So we have a small group of people, but we have a trusted group. As princes of each of the tribes, everything they say could be trusted by their own families and their own tribes. So it would add a lot of credibility to their reconnaissance mission. This whole scenario here is also going to be a test of the Israelites. And we get to see another version of this event take place in Deuteronomy. And it is quite interesting there as well. Numbers 13:3. So Moses, by the command of the Lord, sent scouts from the wilderness of Paran, all of them men who were heads of the Israelites. So Moses is obedient to the Lord, and he is calling for this scouting mission. And we're going to see the names of all the individuals that are here for the scouting mission. And something we're going to notice is that Levi isn't here, but we still have 12, and that's because Joseph had 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and they were kind of brought into the family, so that's why we still have 12, despite one of them not going. Numbers 13:4. These were their names of the tribe of Reuben: Shammua, son of Zakur. 13:5. Of the tribe of Simeon: Saphat, son of Hori. 13:6. Of the tribe of Judah: Caleb, son of Jephunneh. 13:7. Of the tribe of Issachar: Igal, son of Joseph. 13:8. Of the tribe of Ephraim: Hoshea, that is Joshua, son of Nun. 13:9. Of the tribe of Benjamin: Paliti, son of Raphu. 13:10. Of the tribe of Zebulun: Gadiel, son of Sodi. 13:11. Of the tribe of Joseph, that is, of the tribe of Manasseh: Gadi, son of Susi. 13:12. Of the tribe of Dan: Amiel, son of Gamieli. 13:13. Of the tribe of Asher: Sephur, son of Michael. 13:14. Of the tribe of Naphtali: Nachbi, son of Vafsi. 13:15. Of the tribe of Gad: Giel, son of Maki. 13:16. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent to explore and scout out the land. And Moses called Hoshea, son of Nun, Joshua. At the beginning of this book, at the beginning of the book of Numbers, we saw a census being performed, and that census was performed with the assistance of a group of princes of Israel in the different tribes. This scouting mission has a group of princes of the individual tribes as well, but it is a different group of people. Not that that's necessarily super important, but it should be noted that it is not a contradiction that this is a different group of people here going on this scouting mission. I kind of wonder if maybe these people were younger and more physically fit and would be better suited to going on this journey, because they're going to go scout for quite some time, whereas the princes that assisted with the census, maybe they were older and more experienced. But it's difficult to say for certain. Numbers 13:17. Moses sent them to scout out the land of Canaan, and said to them, "Get up this way by the south, the Negeb, and go up into the hill country." Moses hasn't been to the promised land, but he has received a lot of information on it from the Lord. So he knows where it is, and he is providing good instructions to direct these princes so that they scout the right land. It would be pretty bad if he set them out and they didn't go to the right place. Numbers 13:18. And see what the land is, and whether the people who dwell there are strong or weak, few or many. So at the start of the chapter, we have the Lord asking for them to perform this scouting and exploring of the land of Canaan. And now we have Moses giving more details of the different aspects that they are to be scouting for. Now, I don't know if this was something that was given to Moses from the Lord, all these different aspects that they were to scout for, or if that was something that Moses felt as if that's what the Lord wanted him to do. The only reason why I bring this up is the type of things that Moses has them scouting for. When looking at the people, whether they are strong or weak, those are comparative words. Compared to Israel as they are now, compared to Israel when they were in Egypt, or the Egyptians, or is it the power of God? What is strong or weak? Because you got to compare strong or weak to something else. And to have a scout make that comparison, well, what's he comparing it to? How can he ascertain whether or not they are strong or weak? Same with the second part here, whether there are few or many, right? If there's a lot of people in a city, well, there's a lot of people in a city, but do you compare that to Israel, or are you comparing that to the city of the Egyptians, right? Or is there a lot of cities? I don't know, right? It's very difficult to make any form of analysis on very ambiguous terms like that, especially ones that are in comparisons with parties that there's just a lack of information. We don't really know how strong the Israelites are. We know that with the power of God, I mean, they really can't lose to anything if he's on their side and if they're in obedience. But what does this scout know? What does he know of the strength of the Israelites? Nothing. Numbers 13:19. And whether the land they live in is good or bad, and whether the cities they dwell in are camps or strongholds. Again, we have the comparatives here. Is the land good or bad? Well, what's that compared to? The land of Egypt that they were dwelling in, the breadbasket of the world. That was some of the best land of the world at the time. Everything was growing in Egypt. That's why they ended up down there in the first place. Nowadays, Egypt's not really the greatest of places to be growing things, but in that era, it was different than it is today. Of course, what else can it be compared to? The wilderness that they're in on their wanderings. That's probably not the greatest of land. So it's probably better than that. But because it's a comparative, it's really hard to assess. And each one of these scouts, they might be comparing it to something else. One of them's like, yeah, it's way better than this wilderness we're in. Another one be like, it's not quite where Egypt is, right? Like, so it really changes the perspective that way. And then the second portion of this one is looking at the cities. Are they camps? Are they just cities out there? Or are they fortified cities, strongholds? They have great big walls around them and the military might to protect themselves. And that really goes to show the nature of the land, whether or not they need the strongholds or not, or if they have the funding to build those strongholds. So it really changes the perspective of what this land is going to be like. Numbers 13:20. And what the land is, whether it is fat or lean, whether there is timber on it or not, and be of good courage, and bring some of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. So this line here is expanding on that idea of examining the land and seeing what is growing there, along with trees, whether there's a lot of wood, a lot of lumber or not. In the West here, we use a lot of lumber for the creation of houses. In places in Europe, a lot of the houses are made out of stone and brick. It just depends. Typically, houses are made of materials that are available in the area. Whatever is cheap, houses will be made out of. So if there's a lot of wood, they'll make wood houses. If there isn't, well, they make houses out of rock. But wood is still functional in a lot of different things as well, such as wooden carts or water wheels, windmills. Different types of tooling and farming equipment are made out of wood. So it's good to know whether or not there's wood or not. And here we have the idea of bringing a sample back, bringing food back that is growing from the vine in the promised land. Bring some of the fruit back. And it also gives us a time period of when they are going in there. We have the grapes are first ripe, so that's at the start of the season. So there we go. Numbers 13:21. So they went up and scouted through the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehob to the entrance of Hamath. 13:22. And then went up into the south, the Negeb, and came to Hebron and Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, probably 3 tribes of the sons of Anak were there. Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. So the scouts have gone on quite a journey and traveled through many different places to reach the promised land. And all the names that we see here, for the most part, they're not the names that are used anymore for these places or these pieces of land. Over the centuries, different groups have claimed that those portions and the names of things have changed. And even right here, we're reading an English translation of the Bible with the names in here. So maybe even then they're not pronounced quite correctly. So it's hard to say. It doesn't really matter. Well, I guess it technically does matter, but for our purposes, we can just assume that these scouts got to the right location, that they made it to the promised land. And their description of the promised land is pretty intense. Numbers 13:23. And they came to the valley of Ishkal and cut down from there a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a pole between the two of them. They brought also some pomegranates and figs. So I would think they would do most of their scouting, and then before they head back, they would get their food sample. But that's what we have here. They've gone into this valley, and they got this cluster of grapes, and it's being placed on a pole, and we have 2 people carrying it. So this is a tremendous amount of grapes, and likely very large grapes as well. If you do a Google image search and you search for giant grapes, the grapes of Israel are, well, some of them, I don't know what the particular breed is. I don't know anything about breeds of grapes. Not really a grape expert, but these things, they look like they're the size of tennis balls. And if you had a whole bunch of them on a cluster, I could see that being like 2 people being needed to carry that, because that would be a tremendous amount of grapes. What would it be, like 50 pounds of grapes? That'd be ridiculous. Of course, they got their pomegranates and figs as well. Other lovely fresh fruit. Numbers 13:24. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol, cluster, because of the cluster which the Israelites cut down there. So they named this valley after this event of this harvesting of these grapes. Now, there is an Eshcol in Israel today. There's an Eshcol region. Whether or not that is the same region as this valley mentioned here in the book of Numbers, I don't know. It would be pretty cool if it was the same region, that it maintained the same name after all these years, but it's possible that they just renamed a different place to have the same name. Because, I mean, this is several thousand years, and Israel wasn't always in the land, and it could have been renamed later. I don't know, but it's pretty cool. It'd be neat if it was the exact same region. I mean, you could go there and you could get some grapes, and that'd be pretty exciting. I guess if you ever go on an Israel trip, that would be the thing to do. Go to Eshcol, get a couple grapes, and have the grape experience. Although there's probably more interesting places to go in Israel than this, but it's cool nevertheless for historical reasons. Reading the Wikipedia page on this particular region is quite interesting, and it may not necessarily be the safest place to go. There's mentions here of rocket attacks, mortar strikes, incendiary kites. I didn't even know that was a thing. And balloon launches, so balloon weaponry. Numbers 13:25. And they returned from scouting out of the land after 40 days. So the scouts left and they were gone 40 days before coming back. Now 40 days is a number that we have seen quite a few times. We saw the raining for 40 days in Noah's flood. We saw Moses going up the mountain for 40 days. It is a time period that means a long time. I mean, it's probably literally 40 days as well. It's not just some metaphor thing, but it's a metaphor thing that is also literally 40 days. Numbers 13:26. Then came to Moses and Aaron and all the Israelite congregation in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh, and brought them word and showed them the land's fruit. So it has been a long time since the scouts left to do their scouting, and now they have returned, and they have returned with fruit to demonstrate that they have indeed been to the promised land. And now they are to give a report to Moses, Aaron, and the congregation of Israel here in the wilderness of Paran. Numbers 13:27. They told Moses, we came to the land to which you sent us. Surely it flows with milk and honey. This is its fruit. The scouts have confirmed that they went to the right place. It was the land of milk and honey, and what they saw there demonstrated that it was the land of milk and honey. And the fruit that they brought back also demonstrated that it was just a very fruitful land. And the grapes that they brought back were ginormous, and they had the pomegranate and the figs as well. There was a lot of fruit there in the land. Numbers 13:28. But the people who dwell there are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large. Moreover, there we saw the sons of Anak, of great stature and courage. The scouts are now bringing back mixed messages. They have confirmed that the land is very fertile, and there's a lot of fruit there. The fruit they brought back is incredible. But the people that are in the land right now, they're scary. They have big fortified cities, and they're very powerful, very numerous, very powerful, strong cities. Something that is making these scouts a little bit squeamish. Not all the scouts, as we'll see later on. The other version of this story in Deuteronomy really has more details on this aspect. But in reality, it shouldn't matter how strong the people are that are in the land. In Exodus 23, God discusses the idea of driving the people out of the land so that the Israelites can possess the land. And by Moses sending the scouts in and getting them to do an analysis of the people of Canaan and what their cities were like and how fortified they were or whatever it was, that they were measuring the strength of them versus the strength of current Israel and their own nation, as if their own nation would have to fight this battle. When it came to the Exodus, the Israelites were outclassed, outgunned, but the Lord assisted them and made it possible for them to escape Egypt and make it to this point that they are at right now, crossing that river. Moses parting the river so that they could cross it and closing the river behind them to stop Pharaoh's army. Like, the Lord has led them to this point, yet they're still thinking in the realm of the human that they need to do this themselves, take on this burden on them on their own, rather than allow the Lord to do what he says he can do. Numbers 13:29. Abimelech dwells in the land of the south, the Negeb, the Hittite, the Jebusite, and the Amorite dwell in the hill country, and the Canaanite dwells by the sea and along the side of the Jordan River. This part here is just explaining where these different families or tribes or groupings of people, where they are dwelling within the region. We're going to see a lot more of these guys in future chapters and future books. Numbers 13:30. Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, "Let us go up at once and possess it. We are well able to conquer it." Caleb here, he's got the right idea that with the Lord's power, they really don't stand a chance. They could be marching up there and the Lord could go in before them and drive them out of the land. That was the plan. That was what the Lord wanted to do. But their lack of faith is not going to let that happen. Caleb is right here, but the people won't listen to him, for they are going to believe the other scouts. Go for what the majority says rather than the minority. Caleb is not alone. There's another one that shares an opinion similar to his, but the rest, the other 10, they disagree. Numbers 13:31. But his fellow scouts said, "We are not able to go up against the people of Canaan, for they are stronger than we are." 13:32. So they brought the Israelites an evil report of the land, which they had scouted out, saying, "The land through which we went to spy it out is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature." 13:33. There we saw the Nephilim, or giants, the sons of Anak, who come from the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. The scouts are afraid. They do not want to enter into the promised land. They are afraid of the number of the people. There's just too many of them. Their cities, they're really fortified. It would be hard to attack these cities because of the fortifications. And then we have the Nephilim. Some of the people there, they're the Nephilim. They're the giants, the mighty men of old. And they're so big that they look like grasshoppers, and they're just feeling incredibly discouraged by this. I'm sure the other scouts, they think that Caleb is nuts, that he has lost his mind, or maybe Caleb didn't even go to the same place as them to suggest what he was suggesting. But I think Caleb's on the right track. But the right thing to do is probably to consult the Lord and see what he wants to be done. Let him make the decision. He's the one leading them to the promised land. We're at the end of the chapter now, and we're going to continue this in the next one.